Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and once again I've got a pretty beefy character to show off from start to finish, and this time around it's a level 92 charge dash Voidforge Pathfinder. It's been quite a while since I've done a Pathfinder because, I don't know, they just have not been very flavor of the month. They haven't really had too much attention to them, no real buffs in the last Ascendancy buffs, and it's been a bit just same as usual. That said, it's still really good. Same as usual, still pretty goddamn good. Flasks are really good, the buffs are really good, the immunity for elemental ailments is still great, and then of course infinite flasks pretty much means that you are always going to have flasks up for every boss fight and every situation. And then you can see here Charge Dash going absolutely ham through some of these maps. Turns out Charge Dash with the rework has become pretty beastly. Now I did try it out in a couple of characters just as I was leveling, chucked on Charge Dash, and it was feeling a bit weird and a bit wonky. Basically with Charge Dash you got to go from level 28 all the way up to the end game so that you can get used to the way you're pathing with your Charge Dash, the amount of damage you have, the attack speed, and the movement speed. And eventually you do get used to the new playstyle of Charge Dash, the basically Blade Flurry additional teleport, something like that, and it becomes insanely fast. This character at this point is now something like 18, 19 hours into the game and has completed level 92, several Red Elders and Uber Elder, including all of the Guardians and everything before that. So this one was actually probably my fastest character for the league. It was fairly solid for both clearing and for single target. It didn't fall off at all in the single target. However, it did feel kind of weird in the single target, and you'll see what I mean in a second, as well as with the Deathless kind of Uber Elder run at the end of the video. So with a lot of these maps that are fairly linear or have at least tight enough corridors, you can just shoot your way through every single map and blast through with your Charge Dash, hopefully one-shotting things. Once you're one-shotting, that's when Charge Dash really starts to feel quite good, and it starts to help obliterate things like Beyond, Double Beyond, as well as all the temples. Temple runs were an absolute joy in this character. They were pretty damn fast, smooth, and effective. You could always kill off most of the packs, even in these tier 16 temples, with one swing, usually lots of time left over, and it's just a very fast playstyle to get from beginning to end. So then we came across a few Guardians, and this is where the single target started to get a bit weird. So most of these Guardians had a few additional little crappy mods. This is, for example, a Phoenix with additional attack, cast, movement speed, and you hit really hard, granted, but getting the damage in reliably becomes a bit weird unless you just start playing like a pussy, going back and forth like this. So if you do that, you can't really lose, and it ends up being kind of stupid. But if you're trying to get some real good damage in, you have to stand still a fair bit, you have to weave around, and every time you get hit and stunned, it breaks your cast, and overall you become this sort of pseudo-melee, pseudo-ranged, god knows what the fuck kind of character. And your actual charges and dashes can get you in trouble in certain cases against things like Hydra over here. You don't really know when to dash, when to charge, when to stop, when to unleash, because you might get hit by all kinds of bullshit. But the Pathfinder itself is insanely tanky with the amount of reduced elemental damage we have taken, and I'll go over that in just a second for you. But just one more example of some insane boss damage here, that is on the Chimera map. Each one of these dudes just dies immediately, so it's an absolute breeze going through the Chimera phase, and you should be able to notice that we have just about 100% flask uptime against the Chimera himself and then his adds. Popping flasks for every single ad phase, and then still recharging them on just about every pack you're attacking. That is the power of the Pathfinder, and currently when everything has just enough damage to do everything in the game, why not pick the Ascendancy that gives you some real solid quality of life, especially with something as useful as flasks. So that's why Pathfinder is still pretty damn good, even though it doesn't offer as much damage as some of the other ones, or maybe as much clear potential. It is a very comfortable one in the end. So then we've also got just this one more example of a tier 16 Eradicator, I believe he's called. So you should be able to notice that we don't take much damage from him at all. That's thanks to the Law Weave, 80 resists. That's thanks to 6 reduced LE damage from the Pathfinder node, and the Wise Oak triple balancing, giving us additional lightning reduction too. And the playstyle is pretty smooth. You just run around, you just dash around sometimes, but we are fairly tanky, so you can afford to take quite a lot of hits, and you deal quite a lot of damage as well. A surprising amount with Charge Dash overall. And then you of course have a War Chief totem when it needs to help you for some extra single target. So I do want to go over the entire character in full, since this is just the last video on him basically. I went really fast with leveling, and I want to show you guys how I made this character. So the character is a currently level 92 Pathfinder called Pathfinder Monka, and it is based around Charge Dash and the Voidforge weapon. So what Voidforge does is only elemental damage. You don't deal any physical or chaos, and so you convert some of your damage to elemental just to start with, but you then have gain 300% of weapon physical damage as extra damage of an element. So that'll be cold, lightning, or fire. Every time you hit, it'll be randomized and give you one of the 3. Now the way we incorporate this in Path of Building is simply to edit this line. Instead of weapon physical damage as extra damage of an element, you type in as extra, let's just say fire damage, since we do have roughly the same for all 3 damage types of scaling, and that's just how I end up doing it. So now our damage is 840,000. It's only going to show pure fire, obviously, because we just edit it to fire. So that's the additional fire damage, but every time we hit, it's random for lightning and cold as well. And since my tree and the way I've built the character only really scales general elemental damage, it will hit roughly the same no matter which element it chooses. So we have 840,000 Path of Building DPS on Charge Dash on the 6th link. Not really sure what that means as far as POB DPS. Don't know if that's accurate or not for actual pure DPS because of the way Charge Dash is, but that's what the number is, and it seems to hit really goddamn hard. Our War Chief then has 400k, and we end up cleaning up all of the Guardians and Uber Elder pretty swiftly. So the way Charge Dash works though is, if you read it, which you probably won't, is you end up standing there channeling for wherever you want as long as you want, and then unleash. Once you unleash the click, you'll teleport to the end of the dash. However, with the new patch and the way Charge Dash got reworked, you can now control it so it goes different places, so that you are not just strictly locked into going forward and being pretty susceptible to a lot of different damage. You can just turn it around and end up going behind you. Can't go down that way though. And it really does become a bit more versatile, and you'll see this action in the Uber Elder clip in a few minutes. So it becomes a lot better and a lot smoother to play, and I've always personally liked Charge Dash even just off of the straight line mechanic, though now you can actually go forward and choose wherever you want to go. And as well as that, when you actually get to your max stacks, you can still just pulsate damage without actually unleashing every however often, and just deal some actual pulsating damage and not need to unleash at all. Just sit there pure channeling. So that's what it looks like. Currently the links here are Charge Dash, Elemental Damage with Attacks, Melee Fizz, and Crit Strikes. I then have 2 variable jewels, and that, or sockets rather, and for all-purpose mapping I'm running Increased Area and Onslaught. Now Onslaught just because why the fuck not? I have way too much damage for mapping anyway. May as well get some easy Onslaught because I am most of the time not running the Flask, instead running Quicksilver. And then when you want single target, you swap in Conk Effect and Hypothermia. So that ends up being your 6th link, and it's a pretty juicy one at that. Your War Chief 6th link, or 5 link rather, is Ancestral War Chief, LE Damage with Attacks, Hypothermia, Melee Fizz, and Conk Effect. So basically, Charge Dash there ends up converting half your damage to lightning, so half of our initial physical gets converted to lightning. I then convert another 40% here from Fizz to lightning, meaning we have 90% of our Voidforge damage converted, but that doesn't really matter because most of the damage is coming from the gain 300% anyway. But like I said, Voidforge can't deal physical, can't deal chaos, so there's no Atziri Flask. The remainder of my physical damage doesn't exist because you can't deal it, so that 10% is getting slightly wasted, but no big deal. And the way you build around Voidforge is then getting some flat physical wherever you can, elemental damage, attack damage, and some crit multi, as well as attack speed too. So basically I've got as much damage as I can from Mark of the Elder, and then a just shaped ring over here with some accuracy and all that. Some multi here, some crit there, a bit of physical to attacks. I was hoping to run Abyssus, but couldn't get the right helm enchant, and it didn't seem to be necessary anyway, thanks to the amount of damage we deal even without Abyssus, and the +6 to radius of each wave's last damage area enchant seems to be really nice for the clear speed, so if you can get one of these, that definitely will help you out. And then lastly, the only other real quirky item I have is a self-rolled Elder Belt. Chaos spamming this shit, you're looking for Flask effect, so another 10%, meaning you have a total of 30%, reduced Flask charges used, and then some attack speed, LE damage, life, other life percent. There's a lot of cool stuff that can happen on Elder Belts, and you can basically make a little mini Pathfinder if you get the right belt. So that's the kind of thing we're looking for here as a Pathfinder, though at this point I can say we don't really have to be a Pathfinder. There's a lot you can do outside of pure pathfinding for charge dash. I think it's very versatile, and I may even run a Berserker for the flashback race myself as charge dash, because I probably won't get enough of this skill in these next, or in just the past few days, and then tomorrow. So besides that, the gear's all pretty much there accounted for. You can check it out. It's just some pretty mediocre stuff. Besides that cool stuff, you do try and get a Blasphemy Assassin's Mark, and then a Herald of Ice and a Herald of Ash attached too. They're not either one terribly important, but they do help a little bit of clear speed. Damage, they won't really add too much. Herald of Ash does some good overlap damage every now and again to other enemies, and Herald of Ice sometimes helps with the explosions. For the most part, your charge dash is going to do everything by itself. So then lastly, I do want to go over what the damage reduction we're getting is coming from. So you get 6 reduced elemental damage taken here from Nature's Boon. You then do have a Lore Weave with 80 to all res, so that's quite a lot. Since you can't raise your max anymore, you then get some reduced damage from that little Ascendancy there. You then get 10 reduced when you triple balance the Wise Oak. Once it's buffed by Pathfinder's 30% flask effect, which I have with the belt, you then get 13% reduced of each element. So if we're just focusing purely on cold, you have 13 reduction here on cold, you have 6 reduction here on cold, and then you have some reduction with elemental damage taken with this Pantheon or this Pantheon. And in the end, that means that we do not take very much cold damage on the Uber Elder fight at all, and you'll see that in just a second. Lastly, the passive tree. It looks something like this. It's very similar to my last Voidforge character, though this time I have gotten a bit more defense, I think, and then just filled out jewel sockets as best as I can with some crit multi and some attack speed. And as well as that, a few little resists, because it is kind of hard to balance resists on this character with the Wise Oak intact, and all the uniques we use for no resist action. So that's basically it for the character, guys. A Voidforge, it was like 30C when I first picked it up. It's been a pretty low tier weapon for, you know, this entire patch, but it is actually still pretty strong. Charge Dash synergizes with it real well, I think. So pick it up next time you can if you really want, and chuck on some Charge Dash action. Though, like I said, Charge Dash I think is pretty freaking versatile, and you can play Pathfinders, all kinds of other Ascendancies, and all kinds of physical weapons to end up being really meaty damage-wise, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a Voidforge. I'm probably going to try something a lot more humble in the next couple days for the flashback race. So for now though, guys, that's the character. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll leave you with the Uber Elder kill, which is kinda deathless, but hope you enjoyed the character. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. This is fucked. I'm telling you, man, this is gonna be fucking weird. This Quicksilver, it's making me so fucking fast. Let me try changing tactics just a little bit. I mean, at the very least, dying early is good, because it hasn't ruined the fight just yet. think the Quicksilver is still going to be better to use, more or less, but oh my god, this is awkward. I don't know how the other dudes have done it so far. It's so fucking awkward. Dodging like one set of that shit linearly is one thing. Dodging both just ends up being, I don't know, cancerous. Like dodging one of them I don't mind. I think that's not too bad. But when you don't have, I mean when you have two areas you're not allowed to go with your charge dash release, it just becomes awkward. Okay, I got a real good bit of damage in there, and I can't particularly move at the moment. Oh man. Yeah, I think it just takes a bit of getting used to. Well do. I gotta do something with that ball, eh? Go, ball. Ugh. Stop getting hit by stuff. Having flasks is nice. Tell you that. I like that recharge. Look at him go. Yeah, this is a bit awkward. I may run out of flasks. Kind of. I kind of ran out. I just missed a good chance to do some deeps. Oh shit, that's good. I thought he was doing another phase thingy. Slow phase. Head phase is very good. Yeah, DPS is really good though, when you can get it off. Wait, did I win? Oh shit, I won. I'm gonna go with the Deathless, because that first one was just a warm-up death. I think we can all agree that was a Deathless kill. And we go to Joe. I mean, yeah, it's just that it's really weird. You have to get used to it, dodging both sets of shit. The balls and the spears, and then unleashing in the right area. Flask management's pretty fucking good, because, yeah, you can just use them. I think it's the first time I've done a Pathfinder for Uber Elder. And just pumping them always? My god, the convenience. Ah! It's terrible! I think this may actually be the cheapest jewel I've ever had. There's roughly 0 redeeming qualities to this one.